The Young and the Restless spoilers. Saturdays, January 18, 2025. Here is a complete, engaging, and coherent article based on the given plot points. I've developed it into a vivid narrative for maximum impact. The dream that foretold tragedy, Mariah's worst nightmare, becomes reality. Mariah jolted awake, her face drenched in sweat and tears streaming uncontrollably. In her dream, she had seen her mother, Sharon, lifeless and cold, slipping away into the abyss of nothingness. The vision was so vivid that her heart raced even as she tried to convince herself it was only a nightmare. Yet, deep inside, she couldn't shake the overwhelming feeling that it was more than that, an ominous warning of a tragedy waiting to unfold. The morning light did little to comfort her as she sat on the edge of her bed, trembling. She reached for her phone, desperate to hear her mother's voice, to confirm Sharon was alive and well. But before she could dial, an inexplicable sense of dread stopped her. A sinister shadow loomed over their family, one that no amount of hope or determination seemed capable of dispelling. A warning of the inevitable. The family of Sharon Newman had long been familiar with hardships and strife, but nothing could prepare them for the unthinkable reality they now faced. It was as if fate had conspired against them, delivering an agonizing ultimatum: accept Sharon's death as inevitable. A cryptic message, hinted at through an anonymous letter, warned that the family must brace themselves for what was to come. Sharon's disappearance was sudden, inexplicable, and deeply unsettling. For days, Nick, her partner, scoured every possible lead, interrogating anyone who might have seen or heard from her. His desperation grew more palpable with each passing hour. The fear of losing Sharon consumed him, but it was the helplessness that drove him to the brink of madness. When Mariah shared the details of her haunting dream, Nick dismissed it at first. But as the hours turned into days without any sign of Sharon, he began to wonder if the dream had been more of a premonition. Jordan's cruel and senseless act. Sharon had not vanished by accident. She was the victim of a deliberate and heartless act by Jordan, a woman whose motivations were as dark as her actions were twisted. Jordan had kidnapped Sharon, though the reasons for her cruelty seemed disturbingly vague. There was no demand for ransom, no clear vendetta, no logical explanation for why she had chosen Sharon as her victim. Locked away in a desolate, windowless room, Sharon's pleas for mercy went unanswered. Jordan offered no explanation, only a cold, unfeeling silence that stung sharper than any words could have. Deprived of food and water, Sharon's strength waned as each torturous hour passed. Her mind raced with questions: why was she here? What had she done to deserve such cruelty? But no answer came, only the unrelenting despair of a slow, deliberate death. Jordan's motives were shrouded in mystery. Had Sharon inadvertently wronged her in the past? Or was this heinous act simply the whim of a deranged mind? Even as her body weakened, Sharon's resolve remained strong. She clung to the hope that someone, Nick, Mariah, or the police, would find her before it was too late. Nick's frenzied search. When news of Sharon's abduction broke, Nick was consumed with a singular focus: finding her before it was too late. Witnesses reported seeing a woman force Sharon into a car before speeding away, but the details were frustratingly vague. No one could identify the woman or the vehicle's make and model, and the trail grew colder with each passing moment. Driven by desperation, Nick refused to rest. He coordinated with the police, scoured the streets, and interrogated anyone who might have seen or heard something. Despite his relentless efforts, the breakthrough he so desperately needed eluded him. Then, the devastating news came. The vehicle suspected of being used in Sharon's abduction had been found submerged in the river. Any trace of Sharon, or her captor, had been swept away by the relentless current. The role of Claire and Jordan's dark intentions amidst the chaos. Claire, an unlikely ally, stepped forward with a suggestion: she wanted to meet Sharon. Claire's motivations were unclear, but her plea was met with a swift and vehement rejection from Jordan. To Jordan, Sharon was not just a hostage but a strategic weapon, a final trump card in her own shadowy war against Victor Newman. "This isn't your battle, Claire," Jordan snarled. "You focus on taking down Victor. Sharon is my ace, and I'll decide when and how to play her." Claire hesitated, her unease growing. While she had her own grievances against Victor, she couldn't ignore the growing guilt gnawing at her. Sharon was innocent, a pawn in a game she had never agreed to play. But confronting Jordan was a dangerous proposition, and Claire knew she had to tread carefully if she wanted to help without endangering herself. A family on the brink. As the search for Sharon dragged on, the Newman family faced a harrowing reality. Each day brought new challenges and heartbreak, but they refused to give up hope. Mariah clung to the belief that her dream was not a prophecy but a warning, a call to action that would lead them to Sharon in time. Meanwhile, Nick's determination burned brighter than ever, even as doubt and exhaustion threatened to consume him. In the shadows, Jordan watched, her cold smile betraying no hint of humanity. For her, Sharon's suffering was not personal, it was merely a means to an end. But as the walls began closing in, and the cracks in her plans started to show, the question remained: would Sharon's family find her before it was too late? Or would Jordan's cruelty claim another innocent life? This gripping tale of love, loss, and resilience leaves one question lingering in the minds of all who follow it. What drives someone to such depths of inhumanity? And how far will a family go to bring their loved one back from the brink of oblivion? Secrets beneath the surface. Victor's growing suspicion. Victor Newman was no stranger to betrayal or deceit. Over decades of relentless business battles and personal conflicts, he had learned to trust no one fully, not even his own family. So, when he noticed Victoria, Claire, and Nikki whispering in hushed tones and exchanging secretive glances, he knew something was being kept from him. Victor, ever the investigator, decided to get to the bottom of it. At first, he played it subtle, observing them closely. Victoria, his sharp and ambitious daughter, seemed unusually distant in their conversations. Nikki, his wife, was evasive whenever he pressed for details about her recent activities. And Claire, the newest addition to the Newman family fold, appeared far too eager to blend in as the perfect, obedient granddaughter. Something didn't sit right with Victor, and he wasn't one to ignore his instincts. A dangerous truth hidden in silence. What Victor didn't know, and what his family was desperate to keep from him, was the dangerous truth about Jordan. After years in prison, Jordan had somehow found her way back into the world, and her presence loomed like a dark cloud over the Newmans. Victoria, Nikki, and Claire had unanimously decided to keep this knowledge from Victor, fearing the consequences of his inevitable reaction. If Victor discovered that Jordan had been released, his response would be explosive, unpredictable, and dangerous. They knew him too well. He would undoubtedly bring attention to the situation, making it public and impossible to contain. And Jordan, already unhinged, would become even more cautious and aggressive, putting Sharon, and possibly the rest of the family, in even greater danger. For now, secrecy was their best weapon. But secrecy also came with its own risks. Victor's investigation. Victor wasn't one to sit idly by. When subtlety failed to yield answers, he began his own investigation. He assigned his most trusted private investigator to follow Victoria and Claire, to monitor their movements and uncover the truth. But Victoria, knowing her father's tendencies, was always one step ahead. She made sure her meetings with Claire and Nikki took place in secure, private locations, where no prying eyes could reach them. Despite his best efforts, Victor's investigation came up empty-handed. This infuriated him. The more his family tried to hide, the more determined he became to uncover their secret. What could possibly be so important and so dangerous that they felt the need to shut him out? His frustration boiled over into confrontations with Nikki and Victoria, but their answers remained vague and unsatisfying. "Victoria, I know you're hiding something," Victor said one evening, his voice low and laced with anger. "I'm your father. I deserve to know what's going on." Victoria, calm but firm, replied, "Dad, it's nothing you need to worry about. Please, trust me on this." But trust was a luxury Victor Newman rarely afforded, and certainly not now. Claire's dangerous balancing act at the heart of the secret was Claire, who found herself walking a razor's edge. She was playing a dangerous game with Jordan, pretending to be the devoted, innocent granddaughter Jordan believed her to be. In reality, Claire was subtly manipulating Jordan, gaining her trust while secretly aligning herself with Victoria and Nikki to neutralize the threat Jordan posed. Claire's role required careful calculation. She had to maintain Jordan's faith in her, ensuring that the woman didn't suspect her true intentions. At the same time, she had to keep Victor in the dark, knowing that even a hint of his involvement would send Jordan spiraling into paranoia. One wrong move, and the fragile web of deception would collapse, endangering everyone involved. During a tense conversation with Jordan, Claire worked hard to keep up her facade. "Grandma, I just want to help you," Claire said, her voice soft and sincere. "You've been through so much. Let me be here for you." Jordan studied her carefully, her sharp eyes searching for any sign of deceit. "You're a good girl, Claire," Jordan finally said. "But remember, I don't trust easily. If I find out you're playing games with me, there will be consequences." Claire swallowed hard but maintained her composure. She nodded, masking her fear. "I understand." A family divided by secrets. As Victor continued his relentless pursuit of the truth, the tension within the Newman family reached a breaking point. Nikki, torn between loyalty to her husband and her need to protect their loved ones, found herself in constant conflict. Victoria, carrying the burden of leadership, struggled to maintain control while keeping Victor at bay. And Claire, the linchpin in their plan, lived under the constant threat of exposure. Victor's growing suspicion threatened to unravel everything. But the women remained steadfast in their decision to keep him in the dark, knowing that the stakes were too high to risk involving him. For now, their plan remained intact. But with each passing day, the weight of their secret grew heavier, and the danger of discovery loomed ever closer. Victor's next move. Despite his frustrations, Victor wasn't one to give up easily. He began to shift his focus, looking for connections between Jordan and the recent turmoil affecting his family. Though he didn't yet know the full extent of her involvement, his instincts told him she was at the center of it all. And Victor Newman never ignored his instincts. "Whatever you're hiding," Victor muttered to himself, staring out the window of his office, "I'll find out. And when I do, it'll be over for all of you." Little did he know, the key to the mystery lay not in confrontation, but in the quiet manipulations of Claire. A young woman walking the thin line between loyalty and betrayal, doing whatever it took to protect her family from the chaos Jordan threatened to unleash. Would you like me to expand on any specific part of this story, such as Victor's investigation or Claire's interactions with Jordan? Let me know.